Track and field sprinter Sha'Carri Richardson was on the brink of superstardom ahead of the Tokyo Olympics after dominating U.S. trials in Oregon. But the anti-doping agency announced that Richardson accepted a 1-month suspension for testing positive for marijuana. Despite the fact that Richardson's 30-day suspension ends on July 25th, U.S. track and field still decided to leave her off the roster for the 4x100 relay, which runs on August 5th. In an interview with NBC, Richardson revealed that she used marijuana to cope with the loss of her mother while she was competing in Oregon. She learned about the news from a reporter interviewing her following her performance in the U.S. track and field trials. In the wake of the announcement of her suspension, Richardson would take to Twitter to tweet simply, "I am human." A plethora of athletes and celebrities took to social media to voice their support for Richardson. Professional soccer player Sidney Leroux tweeted, "I completely agree. I feel for Richardson. We need to look at what athletes are being given to deal with mental and physical demands of their sports. If Xanax and opioids are legal, then marijuana should be too." NBA great Dwayne Wade tweeted, "But majority of y'all rule makers smoke and probably are invested in THC companies. Let's stop playing these games." Senator Cory Booker had the following to say: "Sha'Carri is an incredible athlete with a bright future. That her dreams are being crushed over a substance that should be legal across the country is devastating and wrong. Her heartfelt apology shows her strength even in the face of adversity." Richardson also received support from marijuana advocacy groups such as NORML, which tweeted, "Richardson, like millions of Americans, turned to cannabis benefits to help her cope with the tragic loss of her mother. To use this to deny her the ability to represent the U.S. at the Olympics is unacceptable. Let Richardson race." Since her suspension was announced, Richardson has seen an outpouring of support from the Black community. Joining us to discuss her suspension and the support that she's received is co-anchor of BNC's Start Your Day, Mike Hill, who's up late, and sports and culture writer for The Athletic, Kavitha Davidson. Thanks, both of you, for being here tonight. Mike, I'll start with you. It was one thing to say that she failed a drug test, she had to be suspended, she took the suspension of a month, she said, "I'm human." Then the track and field governing body said, in addition to that, even though your suspension will be over at that point, we're still not going to let you run in a race that you could be qualified for. What do you make of that?
It's a shame, first and foremost, and obviously if she would have run, they would have been the favorites, possibly giving them a best chance to win the 4x100. It's a shame that she's not able to run in the individual race, but there's a number of reasons, Charles. I'm just speculating right here because obviously they haven't given the reasons and Sha'Carri's not saying anything about it, but one could be a distraction. Possibly the United States Olympic team probably doesn't want that distraction because obviously if she went over there, yes, they would be have a greater chance of winning the race, but the story would be about Sha'Carri going in, and that could be a distraction not only to her but also to the other 3 runners that's on the team with her. And the other could be, well, the United States Olympic team could just look at it and say, well, you know what, because she was disqualified for that, there are other runners on the United States Olympic team who qualified in Oregon who did it and weren't busted for any kind of marijuana substance or any kind of bad test, whatnot, that deserve this opportunity to be on this team, and so we're going to give them that opportunity. Regardless, it's a shame that she's not out there competing for the United States.
Kavitha, talk to us about why this is even on the banned drugs list. It is not a performance enhancer. Anybody who has ever smoked weed knows that you are not going to about to beat anybody in a race after you have smoked a joint. So why is it even on the list?
Well, so here's where it actually starts to get ridiculous. One of the criteria for being on the banned list under WADA, the World Anti-Doping Agency's rules, is that it is performance enhancing. There are 3 criteria. One is that it's performance enhancing. 2 is that it's detrimental to the health of the athlete, and 3 is that it doesn't fit in with basically the role model status or the spirit of the sport, is how they put it. Now, in some of these rulings, and in some studies that WADA has cited dating back to 2011, they do claim that marijuana can have some performance enhancing qualities. I think that anybody who has smoked will doubt that. What they have said is that it helps. It helps injury recovery, and it helps maintain focus, and it helps kind of get over some of the other mental aspects, which, to be fair, are things that Sha'Carri is using it for.
One second. Marijuana helps with your focus?
So that's what they're saying. I don't agree. That is what has been said.
I'm going to ask around. I'm going to do a poll on that.
From this 2011 study that they're citing. Now, the contradiction there is that for the second criteria, that it's detrimental to the athlete's health, they basically then come around and they say it impairs your motor functioning, all of the things that I think we associate with the actual effects of marijuana. So 1 and 2 absolutely contradict each other. The third part of this is where I think this gets really dicey and really moralistic, which is the spirit of the sport aspect. The idea that Sha'Carri Richardson isn't a role model for track and field somehow because she smoked a joint after finding out that her biological mother died, I think is absurd, and is the overarching point here, and is one of the ways that marijuana has been used to moralize, particularly against Black Americans in this country.
Charles, they should give her an extra gold medal. I'm sorry, they should give her an extra gold medal because marijuana actually slows you down. So it's not a performance-enhancing drug. The only way it's a performance-enhancing drug is if they had snacks at the end of the finish line. That is the only way that would enhance your performance of being on marijuana in track and field.
So she has got just tremendous support. I mean, if you're in the running, trying to make the Olympic team, want to be in the Olympics, nothing replaces that. My daughter was trying to make the team. She missed it by fencing. She missed it by 1 slot. It's devastating not to be able to compete. So nothing takes the place of that. But she has received just tremendous support from the public, particularly from Black people. What do you think that means for her as an athlete in lieu of competing?
I believe that means that she's setting her. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Kavitha.
No, go ahead. Well, I think that, when she first says, I am human, I think that's the first thing that we have to understand. We always kind of have a difficulty looking at athletes as if they're human beings because they do these superhuman things. But she's not only a human being, she's 21 years old, and she has handled this about as well as anybody, I think, could have handled this. And I think having that support absolutely means something to her. But at the same time, like you said, Charles, nothing can replace going to the Olympic Games. Now, she will most likely qualify in 3 years and will have another shot at this. But that really is kind of, the tragedy of all of this is that she didn't do anything morally wrong, and we don't get to watch her perform, and she doesn't get to compete. And frankly, USA Track and Field is worse off for her not being in these games.
Mike, you wanted to chime in on that?
Yeah, sometimes I think that sometimes your biggest burdens turn out to be your best blessings, and I think this is going to actually turn out to be a blessing for her because we always love a redemption story in the United States and around the world. And with this young lady, she has become like a little sister to us because we felt her pain, the reasons why she took and she smoked marijuana, and we saw her right as she was competing and how she felt in the arms of her father after she made the team because she had just lost her mother, and then the contrition that she showed of saying that she's sorry and that she's human and she's doing it the right way. So she's setting herself up for a great major comeback, and that's why a majority of the world and a majority of the athletes and a lot of the entertainers and myself are behind this young lady, and we're looking forward to her competing in not the Olympic Games obviously, but in the World Championship and beyond.
Kavitha, thank you very much for joining us. Mike Hill, thank you very much for joining us. I am surprised that I got through this whole thing without you singing, but you can join Mike here every morning on Start Your Day, and you might get him to hum a little ditty for you. And
I can do it now if you want me to.
Back with. No, don't do it, Mike. Don't do it. We'll be right back with our next.